So we have come to the highlight of tonight. So tonight we are going to bring to you a very good topic with the title Business Proposal and Financial Forecast. And we have our speaker, Ms. Poon, who is the COO of MCN International Consultancy with us. So without further ado, I'll call upon our speaker for tonight to share this topic with us. Okay, Ms. Poon, I'll pass the time to you, Ms. Poon.
Hey, thank you, Arthur. Good evening, everyone. Yimin here. I trust that you have already taken your dinner. And over here is heavy rain. I'm having heavy rain right now. So just sit back, relax, and stay tuned together with me. So without further ado, let me start the sharing for tonight's session. I will go through a quick introduction about myself. For those of you who are following this MCN Facebook webinar, I'm not a new face. I have 17 years of working experience with 11 years of experience in advisory firm and 6 years in commercial firm. So for tonight, I'll be sharing with you the topic about business proposal and also financial forecast. Let's go straight to the agenda. First and foremost, I will share with you what is business proposal and financial forecast and why do we have to prepare business proposal and financial forecast. Then you will ask me, how do I prepare it? I'll share with you a few tips. And also, I will be sharing with you some common pitfalls to avoid when you are preparing business proposal as well as financial forecast. Lastly, I will also share with you how can MCN International Consultancy assist to enhance your business proposal and financial forecast. Now, let's start off with introduction to business proposal. Business proposal, sometimes we also call it as business plan, is a document that is designed for two purposes. Let's take a look at the external use. When do you need to prepare a business proposal or business plan? When you need to persuade another organization to buy a product or a services of your company, then you need to prepare a business proposal. Or if you need to persuade a financial institution, which means a bank, to release financing to your company, you will also need to draft out a business proposal. Or you may want to persuade your investor in order to raise capital for your company, right? So that is for external use. Whereas for internal use, a business plan is a written document that describes a company's core business activity, which contains about the objective, what is your target market, what is your product or services, and how do you plan to achieve the target. A good business plan is actually a very effective decision-making tool. Now let's move on to what are the key components that we need to include in a business plan. Basically, for me, when I prepare a business proposal, I will focus on 10 core areas, which is listed over here, and I'll go through with you one by one. First and foremost, you need to come up with an executive summary. This is a very important section. Sometimes people might think that, oh, it's just a summary. I'll just draft out something simple. But this section of a business proposal is to summarize the key point for the reader, particularly those readers who are very busy, they are very impatient. They don't have a lot of time to read through the entire 20-30 pages of your business proposal. So this is an overview. Sometimes when the reader take a look at your executive summary, they will decide whether they will want to continue to read your proposal or they will decide to just put it aside. So this is a very important section when you prepare a business proposal. Then a mission statement. Every company needs to have a mission and a vision, right? So a simple statement that explains your company's goal is very important for your reader to understand what your company does for its customer, employee, as well as for the owner. Then we move on to the next section, which is on the company background. In the company background, you need to include briefly what is the business history, the incorporation date, the establishment, the technology roadmap that you have gone through, and also the most important part is the business outlook, because you want to attract the attention of the reader that your business proposal is actually viable, so that you can persuade them to invest or buy your products, right? Next, we move on to the product or the services description. This is another key area, because this is the section where you actually sell your product and your services to your client. Why do they need to buy from you? Why can't they buy from another competitor or maybe ABC company? How will this product of yours compete with other businesses? Whether you have any similar products or services in the industry, and why should they buy it from you, right? So this is a very important section. Marketing plan is explain how you get your customer to buy your products. So this marketing plan here should include your unique selling point. How are you different from your competitor? If you are unable to stipulate the difference between your product and your services with your competitor, then basically this business proposal is a failure. Okay, so this is a very important part for marketing plan. How you tell your reader how are you different from your competitor. Now talk about competitor. So the next session will be on competitor analysis. Some of you might be wondering, I am preparing my own business proposal. Why do I need to have a competitor analysis? If you remember when we study, I'm sure all of you come across this name. It's called Michael Porter, right? The 5 forces. So of that 5 forces, 3 of it is actually related to competitor, right? The first one being competition in the industry. Who are your competitor in the industry? The second one is the potential of new entrants in the industry. And lastly, there's a threat of substitute product. So as you can see from here, they are very much emphasizing on the competitor analysis, because this will actually give the business proposal reader a sense of how likely or how easily can a new entrant come into your business, and how valuable is your business in terms of this industry. Next, we move on to the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, we are referring to the strength, the weakness, the opportunity and threat analysis. This is actually a very strategic planning tool that can help a company to identify all its strengths, weaknesses, opportunity and threat, as well as how can it exist in the specific business situation. Next, we move on to the operation part. Business operation typically consists of 4 key areas. The location. You need to be able to tell the reader where you do your business, physically or online. Then the equipment. What are the tools that you are using to get the job done? Labor, that means the human side of the business operation, and the process, the way your business done, including the system for quality control and also improvement. Now move on to the next section of a business proposal, which is the financial planning. For this financial planning, later on in the next few slides, I will be sharing with you more details how you can prepare an effective financial planning. And this is a key section of any business proposal, because this will determine whether your business plan is viable, and the reader will actually attract to your business idea by reading through your financial status. And this financial section typically consists of 4 key statements: the income statement, the cash flow statement, the balance sheet, as well as the statement of shareholder equity. Many of us, when we are preparing a business proposal, particularly when it comes to financial planning, we will only focus on the income statement. That means the revenue and the expenses. But you forgot about your asset and also your cash flow. So that's where later on in the next few slides, I'll be sharing with you how can we prepare an effective financial forecast. Last but not least, in any proposal, you will need to have a timeline. When I'm talking about timeline, I'm not referring to by when you are able to complete the entire business proposal. The timeline here, I'm referring to the entire outlook of your business proposal, from the startup all the way until when you are successful to raise the funding for your company. Then what is your next step? So this is the timeline that I'm referring to, because by having this timeline in your business proposal, you'll be able to give the investor or the reader a sense that, okay, your business proposal is actually doable, workable, right? So these are the 10 key sections that we need to include in any business proposal or business plan. If you have done any business proposal or business plan before and any of these section is not in your business proposal, then it's time for you to enhance, okay? Now let's take a look at some common pitfalls when we are preparing a business proposal. Number one, not planning. What am I referring to when I'm saying not planning? Because too many business make business plan because they don't have a choice, or because I'm lack of working capital. So now I need to go to a bank to borrow or loan, or I need to get an investor. I don't have a choice. So now I have to come up with a business proposal. So if you have this mindset, when you are preparing a business proposal, it's not going to be a very comprehensive or structured manner. So therefore, these are the common pitfalls that you need to avoid. Even if you are not required to prepare a business proposal, you should always have a business plan in mind. Secondly, again, I would like to emphasize that you are not focusing on your competition, because you are too excited to share to the reader or the investor about the good part of your company. You forgot about the competitor. Even if you think that you have a very unique business idea and are very sure that there are no other business like you exist, check and double check. Yeah, because if you say that I'm the one and only in the industry, and if the reader or the investor have any knowledge about other competitor that exists in your in the industry, then immediately your business proposal is not credible anymore. Okay. But on the other hand, if you highlight your competitor too much, and then the investor will start to worry that, hey, your business will survive and all if you highlight too much on the competitor. So when you prepare a business proposal, please focus on your niche. Focus on what is the differentiation between your company, your product, your services from the competitor, and how do you plan to compete them in the marketplace, and paint an accurate picture of what is the industry right now and where you see it is going in the future. So this is very important. Thirdly, this is a very common mistake. When people start to draft a business proposal, even if when we are doing the assignment back in our university times or college time, we tend to include too much information. But writing a business proposal is not asking you to write a thesis or a novel, right? So we focus on bullet points, and we use table, graphical, or essential projection, because most reader or investor, they have a mental checklist of about 10 to 12 points when they read a business proposal. For seasoned investor and reader, when they look at the business proposal, they already have in mind the 10 bullet points that they are looking for. So if they browse through your business proposal and they couldn't find that in your business proposal, then again, your business proposal will be KIV, right? Lastly is on vague goal. It is very common that we like to write in the business proposal to say that we are the best, we are the market leader, we are the best of the best. But this is simply too vague, right? So try to wow the reader with your business idea, some data from your research and financial plan, and not with the words that you think your reader want to hear. So let's be very careful about this, right? You see, people say that a pen is mightier than sword. So if you have a very good business idea, but you do not know how to document them or present them in a business proposal, then your idea will go meaningless. But on the other hand, maybe your idea is just a very draft or brief idea, but you can actually package them and present them in a very good way and a very attractive manner. Then your reader and your investor will have more interest to look into it. Because usually when you submit a business proposal, the reader and the investor will always come back with questions. So once you receive that question, you can always enhance your business proposal and business plan. Now let's focus on, because you might be wondering, I can write a business proposal, right? Why should I engage a consultant to write for me? What are the benefits? So let me share with you. If you have a consultant to assist you in either drafting a business proposal or reviewing the business proposal that you have already drafted, first and foremost, the consultant can act as your proposal coordinator. Now, sometimes if you don't have a consultant or so-called a middleman to push you, you will always think that, okay, I will complete this business proposal tomorrow, but the tomorrow never come, right? So if you have a consultant, then it will act as your project coordinator from the start to the finish. And consultant will be able to refresh your proposal with image, tables, and also key insights. Because it is very common that when you prepare your own proposal, you tend to write a lot, long sentences, right? So by the consultant reviewing and giving you some recommendation and highlights, then you will actually turn your business proposal into a more user-friendly or to your readers and also investor. Make sure your executive summary isn't a book report. Remember, the executive summary is the key section of a business proposal. Because any investor or bankers, they have thousands of business proposals on their table. So how can you attract their attention? By the first 5 minutes, executive summary is the key. So if you have a very good executive summary, you can attract them to continue to read. Otherwise, if they read the first 2 sentences, they are already closed and put aside, then it's a waste of your effort, right? Consultant can also help to ensure content alignment with strategy, cost estimate, and also the target audience requirement. Consultant will stay very focused on who is your audience. What is the objective of that reader or audience when they look at the business proposal? They'll also be able to do a plain language audit and editing as required. Last but not least, ensure the proposals are delivered complete and on deadline. Right? So I'll move on to the second session, which is on financial forecast. Let me begin with the introduction to financial forecast. A financial forecast is a management tool that presents estimated information based on past, current, and also projected financial condition. It is very important. Remember, we take a look at the past trend, the current trend, as well as how you project the future. It is part of planning process based on economic assumption. Financial forecast is all about assumption, but assumption is not from the sky. Assumption is based on past trend. Okay, so we also take a look at the sales forecast, the asset requirement, the financing plan, the cash budget to identify future revenue and also expenditure trend that may have an immediate or long-term influence on the company goal. Remember, just now I mentioned about financial planning is a subset of a business proposal. If you are preparing a business proposal, you cannot do away with financial forecast. It helps management to better confront uncertainty about the future. If it is financial forecast used for internal purposes. If it is used for external purposes, financial analysts will normally look at your financial forecast to estimate a company's success in the coming year. And a banker, when they read your financial forecast, they review to determine a borrower capability to repay a loan, because it is very important. Bank is not charity organization, so when they give out the loan to you, they will need to ensure that they will be able to recover back their payments, right? So it is very important that if you have a effective financial forecast, then the success rate of you getting the bank loan or securing the investment is higher. Now let's move on to the next section, how to prepare an effective or comprehensive financial forecast. The 4 key financial statements. First one is the income statement. Okay, for those of you who may not be very familiar with a financial term, income statement is a financial statement where it will show your company income and also expenditure, and it will show whether your company is making profit or loss for a given period. Next, we move on to the balance sheet. A balance sheet is a financial report that comprises of the company asset, liability, as well as shareholder equity. Next is on cash flow statement. This will actually summarize the amount of cash and cash equivalent entering or leaving the company, and it will be categorized into 3 main categories: operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. Lastly, the statement of retained earnings show the accumulation of a company's net income and net losses over the years the business has been in operation. Many of us, or many of you probably, when you prepare a financial forecast, you will only focus on income statement, which is not the right method to do so, because you should not only consider the revenue and the margin, you should also consider your asset, your cash flow, and what is your equity, that means your capital, right? So how to prepare a comprehensive financial forecast? Remember these 3 steps. First, you need to plan, then you need to create, and you need to present it. Okay, set the objective. It is very important. If you do not have an objective, you will not end up well. So it is very, because people say that if you fail to plan, means you plan to fail, right? So it is very important to write down the primary objective of your financial forecast. This financial forecast is for you to go for IPO, is for you to secure a loan, is for you to go for joint venture partnership. You need to specify down the objective to have the end in mind. Okay, then you need to consider the audience who will be reading your financial forecast. If it's your internal, say your CEO or your COO, the financial forecast could be different from if you are presenting it to an external party, right? And next, you need to decide on the format and the period. When I talk about the format and also the period, I am referring to, I mean, not to say what color you want to use, or whether you want to do it in Excel or you want to use software tools. It is more like when you want to present your financial forecast, do you want to break down the sales by division, by product, or you want to have like a revenue and expenses for a particular project itself only, or for the entire company? You need to decide on the format before you start to draft, right? Then we need to identify the key driver, financial and non-financial data. Financial data is pretty straightforward, right? You know where to gather all the financial data because you have past or historical data, like your past 6 months sales, your past 6 months expenses and whatnot. What about non-financial? Where can I get this non-financial information? Non-financial information can be gathered something like your customer satisfaction rate, maybe your on-time delivery rate, whether your compliance to the safety and environment index and whatnot. All these are non-financial data that you need to consider when you are preparing a financial forecast. Interesting, right? If you are doing a financial forecast, you also need to consider customer satisfaction and on-time delivery, because that will actually determine your expenses. If your on-time delivery, you want to hit 100%, then you will need to invest in your logistic, right? So by having this non-financial information, you'll be able to make a good assumption. Then you need to review the 5 rules of forecasting. What are the 5 rules of forecasting? First, think about decision making, not about precision, because this is also another common pitfall. When we prepare financial forecast, we always have this dilemma. I want to be accurate. I want to be accurate. But come again, we are preparing a financial forecast. Forecast means it's not 100% accurate. So if you struggle to start to draft the financial forecast, then you already failed your first step. Okay. Then the second rules of forecasting is that the near future will always look almost the same like the recent past, because this is another common pitfall. When I review through many financial forecasts, they would think that, oh, okay, last month I managed to do 2 million, but for the next 3 months I'll be able to do 6 million. Can we do so? Can we triple up our sales in the next 3 months? Sometimes it's not so ideal, right? So when you prepare a financial forecast, you need to be realistic. Yeah, and the near future will always look almost the same like your recent past. But you need to consider what is changing from last 3 months, last 6 months until the next 6 months. What is changing? What is the change element? So with that change element, then start to draft your financial forecast. Number 4 is on be conservative. Especially at the current pandemic situation, we need to be very conservative about our financial forecast, because the moment you put into the assumption, the investor and the reader will also be able to make their judgment, right? And they will also do a reasonableness test. For the past three years, you are achieving a margin of maybe 1 million. But for the next 5 years, suddenly you project a 10 million margin. Is it possible? Unless there's something major that is happening. Otherwise, they will start to have doubt on your financial forecast. Number 5 rules is on use the smell test. When I talk about the smell test, I'm not asking you to go and literally go and smell your financial forecast. I'm talking about once you have prepared your financial forecast, it's time for you to take a step back, stay calm, and review through your overall financial statement. You need to be able to align between your income statement, your balance sheet, your cash flow, and also your equity statement. If your revenue is growing by 10-20%, and then suddenly your cash flow statement, you are also seeing a growth of 10-20% without taking into the consideration about all the payment terms, credit terms, and whatnot. You are thinking that the month that you are generating the revenue, immediately the cash flow will come in. But in actual fact, it is not going to happen, right? Sometimes you have a payment term of 30-60 days. The customer will even drag you to 90 or 130 days. So you need to be able to perform this smell test, do the alignment, checking, and ensure that they are all in place. Then you proceed with your financial forecast. Another very important part about planning is about using appropriate software tools. Many of you maybe you are currently an owner of a Sandra Berhad or an enterprise, and you may not have the budget to invest in a software, and most of it you are using Excel. But that's fine. There are also some software that is available in the market that is of very budget, within your budget that you can consider. Personally, I do like a software called Survivalware. You can go and Google about this, and it is not very costly, and it can actually help you to achieve the financial forecast results that you want. Then after we plan, we need to start to create, gather non-financial data and financial data, export the historical financial by month, discuss with top management. This is very important. If you are the preparer of the financial forecast and you do not have the insights or you do not have the business outlook, then it will be very difficult for you to draft the financial forecast. Or even if you draft out the financial forecast, it will not be a very comprehensive one. Okay, so always create a first draft first and review. Don't hesitate. Because of I need to be accurate, so I'll wait lah. Today cannot finish, tomorrow only I review again. Let's not do that. Create the first draft first, review through, perform the smell test. Lastly, once you come up with the financial forecast, you need to present it in a very, very simplified manner. Imagine if a banker or investor is looking at your financial forecast and they have difficulty to understand what you are trying to present, then immediately your financial forecast and your business proposal is a failure, right? Focus on the key insight. List down top 3 change element, like, okay, your sales revenue will grow by 20% because of factor number one, you are opening new branches in the southern region or the northern region. Second bullet point, what are the key changing factor? You are switching from physical store to online, then that will give you how much of improvement in terms of your revenue and also margin. And third point, what are those? So focus on the key insight. Then identify the implication, because you need to have a best case scenario and also a worst case scenario. So when you prepare the financial forecast, you got to present it in a best case scenario, and if there are certain risks, then based on this assumption, what will be the worst case scenario? You will also need to highlight on the key drivers and show the results side by side. What do I mean by show the results side by side? This is also another common pitfall when I review through many financial forecasts. They will only focus on the future. What about the current? What about the past trend? If I am a reader or an investor or a banker, if I take a look at your financial forecast, you're only telling me how good you will be in the next 5 years without any real data. How are you doing currently, and what have you done in the past? I don't think this is the credible financial forecast. So it is very important for you to have the result being shown side by side. Okay, let's move on to the... Okay, all right, thanks, Sata. So let's focus on a common pitfall when preparing financial forecasts. You are strictly utilizing a top-down approach. This is very common. The boss say, I want to improve the revenue by 5% for next year and then 50% the following year. So you are only adopting a top-down approach. You did not gather the information from the respective department and roll it out. So this will actually create difficulties when you perform all the financial forecasts. Taking a short-term approach. This is also another common pitfall because you are only looking at 1 year. But theoretically, for a financial forecast, you should consider at least 3 years or at best 5 years. And the step needed to hit the goal is very important for any management team. Failure to revisit the past forecast. Maybe in the past you have already built a very conservative forecast, and a forecaster, means the preparer, may tend to be over-ambitious on a company's ability to cut costs and improve margin. So this is what I'm referring to. You should always refer back to your historical data, because the near future trend will always be very similar to the recent past. You do not distinguish between the on-hand cash and profit. That's what I'm just now. I actually quoted you an example. You say that your revenue will grow by 200,000 in month 1. And then correspondingly, I can also see these 200,000 appear in your cash flow statement. But in reality, we know that we have payment terms. We will sometimes have delay in receiving payments, or even at times we may face some bad debts, right? So if you only consider your profit, but you don't consider the actual inflow of your cash, then again, it is not a very successful financial forecast. Not making reasonable assumption or no assumption at all. This is the most common pitfall. The figure, the ballpark figure is just basically from sky. Now I'm doing 5 million. Then in the next 3 months, I'm going to do 50 million. Based on what? What is your supporting data? Are you signing a major agreement with another partner that enable you to gain from 5 million to 50 million in the next 3 months? If you do have this kind of agreement or plans, it is good that you list it out in the financial forecast, so that your investor or the banker, when they read your financial forecast, they will be able to visualize, right? Otherwise, if you say out of nowhere that your revenue is going to grow to 50 million, I believe this is not a very credible financial statement, right? Okay, let's move on to how can MCN International Consultancy enhance your financial forecast. Firstly, we can help to review the actual result month to date. We will help to analyze what is your actual result based on your month to date results. And then we will be able to assist you to check your assumptions. Remember just now, no assumption or not very reasonable assumption. So we will challenge you. We will say that, is this doable? Based on what? Do you have agreement? Do you have already secured PO? If you are projecting some sort of expenses, we will ask you whether you have already obtained a PO or this is based on your best estimation or whatnot. Yeah. Then we will also consider the risk or opportunity involved in reaching the forecast. But sometimes as the preparer of the financial forecast, you'll be overly excited and you forgot about the risk. And also sometimes you may overlook some of the opportunity that you may have when you are preparing the financial forecast. So as a consultant, we will help to point it out, and we will also try to validate the actions that you have taken to minimize the risk and also maximize the opportunity, because we will sort of like brainstorm with you. So in order for you to achieve this, what action have you taken or you plan to take? Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Okay, and we will also brainstorm the roadblock that you have withstand of a opportunity, because two brains is always better than one, right? Lastly, the consultant will be able to help you to recommend the action that your team can take to overcome all these obstacles, right? So with that, I will hand over back to Arthur. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pun, for your wonderful sharing.